Hello there, everyone. This is Mr. D, bringing you another chapter of the Holy Chronicles put out by me, Mr. D. And this is in reference to book Genesis. The chapter that we're going into is chapter 30. And if you have not marked my subscribe button, please do so. That would be great. And as you remember, when we left at chapter 29, after Jacob had ended up marrying Leah and Rachel, that Leah had given him some children. And I think that was like right at the very end of chapter 29, where it says, when the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remains childless. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "It is because," she said, "is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now." She conceived again. And when she conceived again the son, she said, "Because the Lord had heard me, but I am not loved. He gave me a son too." So she named him Simon. So now we have Reuben and Simon on the previous chapter. And then it ends up with, again, she conceived. When she gave birth to a son, she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have bore him three sons." So he was named Levi. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to the son, she said, this time she praised the Lord, so that the name of him was Judah. Then she stopped having children. This brings us to the beginning of chapter 30. And what I could get out of the children in here was, there was Reuben, there was Simon, Reuben, Simon, and it looks like Levi. And then it looks like it finished off with Judah. That brings us into the start of chapter 30, where we're at now and where we should be. So it starts with, when Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob, it was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." And Jacob became angry with her and said, "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children? It wasn't Jacob's fault. I mean, why blame me?" he says, So it goes in now to verse 3. Then she said, "Here is Bella, my servant. Sleep with her, so that she can bear children for me, and I too can build a family through her." So she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife. Jacob slept with her, and she became pregnant and bore him a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. He has listened to my plea and given me a son." Because of this, she named him Dan. So that's 5 now, Dan. Okay. Rachel convinced Bella to conceive again, and she bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "I have had a great struggle with my sister and have won." So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children and took her servant Zilpah and gave her Jacob as a wife, Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, "What good fortune!" So she named him Gad. Wow. A lot of different women, a lot of different children. There must be a reason for all of these children. Okay. Leah's servant Zeph bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, how happy I am to the woman that can make call me happy. So she named him Asher. During wheat harvest, Reuben went out into the field and found some mandrake plants, which he brought to his mother, Leah. Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, wasn't it enough that you took away my husband? Will you take my son's mandrake too? Very well, Rachel said. He can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrake. So when Jacob came in from the field that evening, Leah went out to meet him. You must sleep with me, she said. I have hired you with my son's mandrake. So he slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she became pregnant and bore Jacob a fifth son. Then Leah said, God has rewarded me for giving me a servant to my husband. So she named him Ishar. I think that's how it says Ishar. Verse 17. Boy, all these, well, I'm so glad I don't have that many kids. But I did. I had up to 6. I mean, geez, half as much, is what's going to end up here. So it goes into 19. Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a 6th son. Then Leah said, God has presented me with a precious gift. This time my husband will treat me with honor because I have given him a son. So she named him Zebulun. Sometime later, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Deniah. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and enabled her to conceive. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and said, God has taken away my disgrace. She named him Joseph and said, may the Lord add to me another son. Jacob's flock is what it categorized the next thing in the Bible, which is, let me see if we can find a better way for me to read this Bible. Kind of, sometimes it's awkward here when you're using back screens and stuff like that. I was doing this the other day. I'm going to record one outside, but the 6 grandchildren just kind of couldn't keep quiet. So now I'm doing it here kind of quiet in this back room, going on with all the verses, trying to share the history of God and his love with everyone. In verse 25, verse 25, it says, after Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me on my way so I can go back to my own homeland. Give me my wives and children for whom I have served you, and I will be on my way. You know how much work I've done for you. But Laban said to him, I have found favor in your eyes. Please stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. He added, name your wages and I will pay them. Jacob said to him, you know how I would work for you, how I have worked for you, and how your livestock has flared up my care. And the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I have been. But now, when may I do something for my own household? I'm thinking he's saying, can I go? Everything I do is for you. It sounds like Rachel and Leah's father just really wasn't like really the right person, I would think. But he was still their father, you know. So, what shall I give you? He asked. Don't give me anything, Jacob replied. But if you will do this one thing for me, I will go on lending your and tending your flock and watching over them. Let me go through all your flock today and remove from them every speckled and spotted sheep, every dark colored lamb, and every spotted and speckled goat. They will be my wages, and my honesty will testify for me in the future. Whenever you check on the wages you have paid me, any goat in my possession that is not speckled or spotted, or any lamb that is not dark or colored, will be considered stolen. So now he's going to try to tell him he's a stealer. Oh, wow. Some people really, agreed, said Laban. Let it be as you have said. That same day he removed all the male goats that were streaked or spotted, and all the speckles or spotted female goats, all that had white on them, and all the dark colored lambs, and he placed them in the care of his son. Then he put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob contributed to tend the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob's, however, took a fresh out. Excuse me. Jacob, however, took fresh out of the fresh cut branches from the popular almond and plane trees and made white strips on them by peeling the bark and exposing the white inner wood of the branches. Then he placed the peeled peeled branches in all the watering troughs so that they would be directly in front of the flock when they came to drink. When the flocks were in the heat and came to drink, they mated in front of the branches. They mated. And they bore young that were streaked and speckled or spotted. Jacob set apart the young flock of themselves, but made the rest face the streaked and dark colored animals that belonged to Laban. Thus, he made separate flocks for himself and did not put them with Laban's animals. Whenever the stronger females were in heat, Jacob would place the branches in the trough in front of the animals so they would mate near the branches. But if the animals were weak, he would not place them there. So the weak animals went to Laban and the strong animals went to Jacob. It's pretty smart. When you think, I think that's really smart. In this way, the man grew exceedingly prosperous and came to his own large flock, came with a large flock of his own, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Wow. That was a pretty good return. I mean, all of those animals before he leaves, that's amazing. Let's see here. I think we'll stop there. We'll get the next chapter. Jacob has to flee because of this. Don't ask me why. I don't know why he would have to flee for doing what he should have been given to him the first time when the guy kind of shorted him and given him his older daughter instead of his younger daughter. So I can understand that. So what does he do in the next chapter? Why does he have to flee? Do they know where he's going? Yeah, I'm sure they are working on that. So I'll leave you at the close of chapter 30, and 31 is coming up next. So please don't forget to join me. May God be with you. May the Lord bless you. Mr. D.